Namaste, folks. How are you doing? Welcome back to the Conscious Club. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Nicole. I haven't been showing up here on this channel too much of late, but that is going to change. I'm nice and settled and grounded to where I've just relocated to, which means I can now create a little bit of space to contribute here, which is something that I find very fulfilling. I plan to shift away a little bit from the asana-based sharing that I have been doing. I will still chime in from time to time and add to that, but I would like to begin to show up here in this space, contributing and sharing more of the philosophy of Patanjali's Secrets of the Yoga Sutra. So that's what I'll be using as a reference to guide me through for any of the things that I'm sharing. Do bear in mind, I'm still very much a student myself, and for me, this practice of sharing is to help me further comprehend and understand it. I always find that putting information that I am learning into practice and reiterating it and sharing it through my own lens really helps solidify and helps me make sense of what it is that I'm taking in. So today I want to share with you some knowledge around Sutra 244, Svadhyaya. Svadhyaya is the sacred study of the self. I do have some notes here that I'll be referring to, and there will be this crazy little Sphinx cat, Petunia, who will without doubt make her presence very well known. So if we are to break the word down into its two syllables, sva, which means the self, and yaya is study or contemplation. So this kind of self-study is a lot deeper than your everyday introspection. It's a lot deeper than everyday journaling, though journaling is a very, very important aspect to self-study, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But the aim of Svadhyaya is really to penetrate into the deeper layers of ourself, to really begin to ask ourselves the bigger questions. Who am I? What am I here for? And entwined deeply into that is what is hindering me? What is holding me back? What is repeating in my life time and time again? And in those circumstances where there is that repetition of undesirable experiences, undesirable relationships, outcomes, what is my viewpoint in that? Am I finger pointing? Am I taking the blame train route? And Svadhyaya, if that is the route that we predominantly take, and this in itself is really deep work to even begin to start these questions and acknowledge this kind of these kinds of tendencies, with the practice of self-study and self-inquiry, can I begin to understand my place in these cycles that keep on repeating? These same relationships that I keep finding myself in, different person, same face, right? So Svadhyaya is also the understanding that we live in a world that is constantly trying to tell us who we are. We live in a time, within a generation where we are bombarded on a daily basis with suggestions, with imagery, with very subtle subliminal messages of who we are. And this practice really helps us to dive further in and ask, what is my soul aligned purpose in this life? What is it that I am here to do? And that's a question that you can find yourself. When I first started doing Svadhyaya, one of my daily practices was at the end of my yoga practice, so remembering that yoga includes the asana, the pranayama, and the meditation, right? After that practice, religiously every day, I would take my journal before even getting off my mat, before interacting with any other aspect of my day. I would take my journal and just begin to write. It's really important with those morning pages that you really just let it be a stream, writing as if nobody else is going to read it, which is how it should be with journaling anyway. And you begin to notice after some time, a week, 2, maybe it might take a month, maybe it can take years, that the same themes can begin to show up time and time again. You might be in a different location, you might be in a different job, you're in a different relationship. However, you find yourself landing, ending up resulting in the same outcome. The job doesn't work out. The boss singles you out. You end up in a relationship where there's no emotional availability in your partner. And you begin to notice over time, through the self-reflection, through the study of the self, Svadhyaya, the mental tendencies that can begin to be correlated with these same scenarios. What is the inner story, the inner narrative that is affiliated, that is associated, that is very tightly bound and intertwined into all of these repetitive experiences that you're having in your life? And you're able to, just through the identification of that, begin to penetrate through another layer of the self. And when we begin to listen, the thing is when we listen to the ego, it really has a tendency to keep pulling us in towards the smaller self. Fear, self-doubt. And those kinds of repetitive thoughts that are associated with all the criticism and the doubts and the judgment with the egotistic mind. And these, when we get caught up in these tendencies and swept away in them, and this will often happen because of the lack of self-study, because of a lack of Svadhyaya, because we're not becoming curious about how we're ending up here. We're not asking ourselves the questions. We are not sitting with the self. And when that begins to happen, we get swept up in, this causes chitta vrittis. And these are fluctuations of the mind. Here goes Chooch. These are fluctuations of the mind. And this, when we get caught up in the fluctuations of the mind, things can really begin to spiral. And that's when the ego really takes over and has us making bad decisions, has us reacting in ways that we've always reacted. But through the practice of introspection, of Svadhyaya, there's able to be a brief pause. I will do another lecture, just coming back to the chitta vrittis, actually. I will do another lecture on Antakarana. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll actually probably need a whiteboard for this. It's the inner instruments of the mind, and it breaks the mind down into 4 different sections. And while the chitta is really, really important, and it's important to understand that it can work for or against us. The ego is very important for ourselves to define ourselves in this world, to understand what it is that we're here to do. But aside from that, it can lead us astray a lot of the time. So I think what I'd like to share with you is some ways that you can, I'm just trying to find my notes here on this, some ways that you can begin to really simply bring in Svadhyaya into your daily practice. And the first one that I already mentioned was journaling. And this, as I've mentioned, I've already said why this is very important. It's crucial. It's absolutely critical. No further work can be done without understanding. Apologies, Petunia. No further work can be done before we begin to understand the repetitive nature of the mind. So post yoga practice, begin to journal. Begin to get really curious about what comes up. Begin to understand if there are certain connections and affiliations with certain aspects of things that do come up. You know, is there a certain time of the year? Is it a certain friend that you spend time with that leaves you feeling a certain way? The other one is, if you're studying something, is to really take pride in the study, to go back to revise, because often in times, whether you might read a passage of a book, and something in that will speak to something far deeper within you than the sort of everyday interaction that you might have with it. Journal on these things, go back to them, write them down, make a note of it. If you can, physically write it out in your journal. We have these devices that allow us to make quick notes and whatnot in our mobiles. But there's something with the action of writing something out and having it all in one book. I've got this book here, which I use for my practice, and it's bitsy. I've got bits here, I've got bits there, but I flick through it, I know it. I've got post-it notes, and I'll often come back to something that I noted down months ago, a couple of years ago, and I'll be able to contemplate on that again at a deeper level. And keep a specific Svadhyaya journal. Keep your post-practice Svadhyaya journal separate from anything else. Your work journal, your daily tasks, split it up. Really make this a sacred practice. And off the back of that, really revise your self-care routine as well with your Svadhyaya. That's something really important to look into as well. And now, finally, it is said in this lineage that through the practice of Svadhyaya, there are 5 things that you will experience through this practice. And the first one is that you will begin to learn the context of your own mind. Another way of saying that is that you will begin to understand the nuances of your own mind from a different viewpoint. You will begin to be able to connect dots and understand why it is that your mind operates in a certain way. And when you begin to understand this practice, you will begin to not only understand that point, but the rest of the points in more depth. The second one is you will know the true memory of the spoken and the written word. And another way of understanding that is things will start to have deeper, more profound meaning than they have done in the past. Things will click, messages will connect, and there will suddenly be this very beautiful intertwine with your life. There will be more depth, there will be more meaning, there will be more understanding, there will be more profound moments that really stop you in your tracks and help you to know without any doubt the interconnected nature of everything. The third one is you will become, this is a huge one, you will become free from suffering. There will be less resistance. There will be more empathy. There will be more compassion. You'll be less spun by life. For example, like a kitty cat running around playing with everything while you're trying to film a YouTube channel. These little things will not bother you anymore. You will notice them, but you will become less reactive. It will be grey noise in the background. And this is a really, really beautiful seat to arrive in. When the discrepancies of life, when the ups and downs, the peaks and flows, the ebbs and troughs begin to, you become unfazed by them. She's playing with earrings. The fourth one is, and this is major, you will begin to have healthy relationships. Let me just take this earring from her. Thank you, ma'am. You will begin to have healthy relationships. You will begin to refine your friendship groups. You will begin to refine the people that you give your time to. You'll begin to refine the teachers and the guides that you receive your knowledge from. And I think we probably all have a fairly good understanding relating to how impactful relationships are to our, not to just to our life, but to our health. You know, I think if you're following the path of yoga and listening to this lecture and interested in the sutras, you will be very, very aware, or you would have had your fair share of unhealthy relationships, I'm sure, whether it's primary caregivers, lovers, friends, colleagues, and you will have begun to have a true understanding of how disruptive an unhealthy relationship is to, and unconducive it is to life. Svadhyaya will help you come into a place where you will no longer accept that. And from that place, you then begin to cultivate an empowered version of yourself that calls in and is ready to receive a healthy relationship. Number 5, again, one that I have definitely experienced myself, and this is why I'm showing up here on this channel. I do this because it's something that I enjoy, but you will begin to contribute to the world in a more authentic way. Your contribution will not drain you. It will be something that fulfills you, something that energizes you, something that inspires you. And so that charity that you give out to the world will become so authentic, it will become so effortless, and it will become so fulfilling. The final points I will leave you with on this little mini lecture, which is probably not as mini as I intended for it to be, are 3 questions. And if you have a pen and paper, just grab that now. If not, you can pause the video and go and get something. It's just 3 simple questions, and this is a really great opportunity to use these 3 prompts at the end of your yoga practice to begin your Svadhyaya. And you can use this for as long as you like. And from this, the other questions will naturally and organically begin to bubble to the surface. So the first question is, why am I here? Just write that down for now and don't think too much on it right now. Why am I here? And the second one is, what do I hope to achieve in this lifetime? What are my deepest, truest, most authentic, nothing is stopping me, nothing is in the way, ambitions? How do I want to leave my mark on this world? And the third and final point cannot be left aside. This interlinks very closely with the second point, because in order to achieve the first point and be honest with the first point and have enough Svadhyaya to answer that question, we have to ask the third question, which is, what is hindering me? What is stopping me? What prevents me from showing up and taking this opportunity in this life to achieve that? Do I snooze my alarm every morning? Do I keep getting into relationships despite my intuition saying, not this again? Do I keep pursuing a career that does not light me up? I am dragging my feet every day getting there. Do I order in instead of cooking when I have a fridge full of food every single day, meaning that my health, my energy levels are not where they could be? Do I pop on Netflix instead of picking up my book? These are the small, what we might consider minute choices that we don't think make a difference, but deep down we know. So the third question, what is hindering me? If you've made it this far through this lecture, you're a trooper. Thanks for staying. And I intend for my next lecture to be on Antakarana, the inner instrument. So we'll break down the 4 operating parts of the mind according to Patanjali, to get more of an understanding of how those individual parts contribute and how they interlink. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.